I don't think I'll ever be able to drink coffee ever again because like the taste of, like it was in coffee swab mouth into my nose and oh my God. Welcome back, friends. Let's just start off by addressing the title of this video. I'm going to be talking about my Corona experience, but because I needed to loop it into my weekly reverse diet documenting schedule, I'm going to just spend a couple quick minutes talking about week 4 and like my first month wrap up of reverse dieting. The summary is there's nothing to report. In week 4, my goal was to hit 1,875 calories per day. I averaged that much, more or less, but it was very up and down. Like I had one day where I ate 2,100 calories in a day, which is like the most food I feel like I've ever eaten in my whole life. And I had like another day where I ate closer to 2,000, and so other days I just balanced it out by dropping my calories just slightly so that I could maintain my variables as much as possible. Speaking of maintaining, I did weigh in daily last week. Oh, my head. And the average of my daily weigh-ins was 64.3 kilos, which technically is a loss of 0.2 kilo. But on the last day of the week, which was this past Sunday, I weighed in at 64.5, and that was the weight I started my reverse diet at. So I'm just going to say that I was able to call it a wash. This whole first month of reverse dieting, I have not gained anything. I'm going to say I haven't lost anything. Here are some progress pictures. Shwung. These top ones are January 4th, which are my starting pictures. And then these bottom ones are the end of the month. So this is like my before and after for the first month of reverse dieting. I don't see any difference at all. Like, I feel like I look a little tighter and leaner in my before pictures, but I'm the same weight in both sets of pictures. So, you know, I mean, we're splitting hairs now, right? My clothes still fit the same, my body still feels the same. I was experiencing continued increased energy and feeling really good, hitting like records in my gym here. Everything was going good. So just to say that I have wrapped up the first month of reverse dieting right where I would like to be. I'm right on schedule. I'm getting the results I would like to see. Everything feels like it's holding stable and consistent. Going into the second month, I would say that this is where things are probably going to get a little bit hairier because now I will be working my way into calorie ranges that I know for a fact to be like at my normal maintenance or possibly beyond it. So I expect to start seeing weight gain at some point this month. However, that's said with a massive caveat because had I not gotten sick, my goal of week 5 for this week that I'm in right now would have been to hit 1,950 calories every day, which would have been 75 calories increase over last week. But I am not tracking this week. I'm not working out this week. If and when I do track, my goal is to hit around 1,750 calories, just to account for the fact that I am not performing any physical tasks at all this week. And that is because we have COVID. So let's get into that now because that is like the topic du jour. So here's the thing. I am still waiting to get my Corona test results back. They should be in sometime between now and tomorrow at lunchtime. Like sometime within this range they should be coming in. But I feel like I can say with 100% certainty that we have COVID. And the reason I say that is because of the way we were exposed. On Friday, January 22nd, my husband had to work very closely with a colleague for several hours in a small room. A couple days later, that colleague got sick and called and notified us. A day after that, he got his COVID confirmed. So very direct exposure that my husband had with this particular guy. And then on, let's see, Tuesday, January 26th, at the end of the day, he started feeling a light head cold coming on. He kind of just thought it was in between his ears. And then the next day he felt a little bit more sick, like he just had a common cold. And then by Friday, January 29th, he was legitimately sick. He had a very, very bad head cold and congestion, and he had some heavy lethargy, and he had a little bit of a sore throat. Okay, so that is like my husband's end of the deal. Now today is what, February 2nd? Yeah. And he's still sick with that same head cold, same lethargy, but he's feeling much more himself. He has not regained his sense of taste and smell yet, but he did lose that a couple days ago. For me, I felt totally fine up until Friday, January 29th. And at the end of the day, I noticed I was having like a tickly, scratchy feeling in my lungs and like a little bit of a scratchy cough. And I noticed I was feeling pretty worn down and fatigued by the end of the day. I woke up the next day, January 30th, which was a Saturday, after very feverish sleep and nightmares. I woke up with a horrible headache, and really bad body aches, muscle aches, you know, the kind of ache where it hurts to have clothes on your skin. It hurt to lay on any kind of firm surface because the pressure of my body, especially on the back side of my body, was very painful. And I had a stuffy nose and bad fatigue. The next day, Sunday, January 31st, I was all of that but worse. It was to the point now where 2 extra strength Tylenol was not enough to take away my headache and my body aches fully. And I noticed that my body aches in particular were really bad in my low back, particularly around my left hip. And those pains, like cramping pains, would also radiate down my leg. Later that evening, I got a very mild fever. I think it was 38.3 Celsius, and I think 38.2 is a fever for adults, so it was very light. I had chills, and also that evening, I had really crazy, pulsating, bright, flashing lights in my eyes anytime I closed my eyes, whether it was dark or light or whatever. I was just having these crazy ocular, like, flashes of lights. Yesterday, February 1st, Monday, I woke up with less pain in my body. The Tylenol now takes the pain away, but I was very dazed, I was dizzy, I was disoriented, I felt very numb, like numb physically. My senses were starting to get dulled, so my sense of taste and smell started to go, but also my sense of touch and just my sense of self. I felt very absent. I felt like I was watching everything happen to my body from outside of it. The headache and the backache and the body pains and everything came back with a vengeance towards the end of the day, and I had crazy brain fog. Like I just couldn't put together one singular coherent thought. We also that afternoon, so yesterday afternoon, we got our COVID test, and it was terrible. We had to take one swab. It's a self-test. So one swab. First, you stick it in the back of your throat and you swab around for 10 seconds, and they say do it until you throw up. Okay, like gag yourself with it. And then take that same swab and stick it up your nose as far as you can go and swab around in there. Same swab that was just... And then after that, you spit into a cup, and then you swab that same swab into the spit and saturate it, and then you turn it in. And I'm just like, I don't think I'll ever be able to drink coffee ever again, because like the taste of, like it was in coffee swab mouth into my nose, and oh my God. And I'm like sitting here paranoid that I didn't do it good enough. Like I didn't go far enough to my brain to swab, and I just feel like now I just didn't do it sufficiently enough because you guys know it's so uncomfortable and ugh. Anyway, so we're waiting on our results still. I can't even talk. Today, February 2nd, Tuesday. Okay, so last night was like the worst night of them all so far. Not only did I have feverish dreams, just tossing and turning, could not get comfortable. Not only did I have just crazy aching body pains and stuff, but I had mad restless leg syndrome. Just mad, crazy restless leg syndrome. So at like 2 in the morning, I finally got up. I tried to do some yoga, but my body is as stiff as a tree. Everything just hurts. Everything is stiff, and everything hurts. And so I decided to take a bath. So I drew a bath at 2:30 in the morning, and that's when I noticed I got the rash. I'll show you guys pictures of the rash I have now. It's upraised, red and bumpy. There are patches that are very flat and just look like flushed skin with very defined borders. The bumps I have on my fingers, I don't know if you guys can even see the lumps. Can you guys see the lumps I have in this finger? My lighting is not all that good. I don't know if you can see. I can show you guys these now, these spots I have on my hands. Especially on my fingers, I have these really painful, upraised, red, blister-like lumps. They hurt. They really hurt. It feels like I have hand, foot, mouth rash on my hands, but the spots I have on my elbows, which I think I can actually show, no, I can't. I've got too many tight layers. Those feel nothing, or they also kind of itch. I have also now officially lost my sense of taste and smell. So all of these things just indicate to me that, like, obvious direct exposure, timeline symptoms, everything like that. It's just so obvious that we have COVID. My 4.5-year-old has not exhibited any signs or symptoms whatsoever of having an infection from us this time. And my 2-year-old, he's sneezing a little. And he seems clingy, like more clingy than usual, whiny, wanting to have his comfort items at all times of the day, which is his pacifier and a bottle of warm water. And he will not leave my side, and I have not left the couch or the bed. So basically he just lays and snuggles me all day long. He seems very slowed down and a little heavy, but otherwise he's eating normally and playing normally and having his like moments of wildness and stuff like that. So my toddlers do not seem affected this time around. Now, I say that to transition to the second half of the story, which is that if this COVID test comes back positive, indicating we do have it, then this, I guarantee you, will be the second time that we have had COVID. Because everything we are experiencing now between my husband and I is just a very light version of what we went through at the end of February last year when we suspected we had COVID then. And I want to talk about that for a minute because I don't know how many people out there are wondering what it would be like to get COVID again, or how it might affect their kids or whatnot. So I just want to give you all the information I have. At the very end of February last year, I was exposed to a colleague who came to work sick. The company I work for, our main manufacturer, is in the Lombardy region of Italy, northern Italy, okay? So my coworker, who was like a young 20-something, you know, very healthy, not risk group type of gal, was in northern Italy during like their crazy outbreak of COVID. She came home on one of the last flights on SAS Airlines before they stopped flying in and out of Italy, and then northern Italy went into lockdown. So she was like coming back home right in the thick of Italy's outbreak of COVID in 2020. She came to work with gastrointestinal issues. She thought it was just a normal travel bug. Nothing was known about COVID back then. We did not know that COVID could present itself as nothing or as stomach issues or whatever. The only thing people were told of back then was like fever, cough, and sore throat, I think. And so she came to work and I was there. 3 days after that, I became ragingly ill. Immediate feeling that a truck had hit me, just an immediate feeling of that, just an intense something was gonna just rip my soul out through my nose. Intense fatigue. Like to the point where my house could be burning down and it would not matter. I'd just stay on the couch and just say, take me, Jesus, take the wheel, you know? Horrible body aches. So bad that I was taking 2 extra strength Tylenol and 2 ibuprofen, and it was hardly doing anything to take away the pain. I had a really bad headache, really bad weakness. That lasted for 3 or 4 days. Then came the rash. So here now is an image comparing February of 2020 to February of 2021, my rashes. They are almost identical and they are in the same spots, my knees, my elbows, and the back of my hands. And they have the same look, feel, texture, pain on my hands, itchiness on my knees. At the time, if you guys actually go back and watch my February results video from last year during my postpartum fitness journey, I had said that the doctors told us they thought we had flu type B, and I thought that maybe we had contracted hand, foot, mouth disease because I was getting the same rash as I got when I got hand, foot, mouth disease from my toddler back in 2017. I also completely lost my sense of taste and smell for 8 days despite not having a head cold. But then a week later, just this raging head cold hit me, and then after that we had several relapses of sore throat and really bad cough despite quarantining. So all of that put together made us think, like, at the time, in the moment, we did not think we had COVID because Sweden had only just had its first documented case of COVID, and we just didn't think it was possible at all that we had it. There were no tests for it. We did not need to seek medical help, so there was like none of that. It wasn't until later when these secondary symptoms of losing your sense of taste and smell, getting a skin rash, like these kinds of things sort of came to the forefront, that we started putting 2 and 2 together, and we were like, oh shit, we might have actually really had COVID back then. But I want to talk about how it affected my whole family, because my experience with that virus at the time was not similar to the way my husband and my babies experienced it. So my husband got the fever, chills, sweats, really bad fatigue, really bad sore throat, and a bad cough and head cold. And he had that for like 2 weeks. And then he also had a couple relapses of having a terrible sore throat. So that was his experience with the virus. My older toddler, who was 3 at the time, she was only sick for 3 to 4 days. She came down with a 40°C fever, which lasted about 36 hours. And then she was just very fatigued, had that sunken in eye look, just rested on the couch, and then she was fine. My younger toddler, who was maybe 14 months old, he got it worse. He had a fever for 3 days. He was sleeping very poorly. He developed a very, very bad head cold and had conjunctivitis in his eyes for 10 or 11 days, if I recall correctly. He had pink eye, and just like a lot of goop, just so much goop crusting over his eyes. His symptoms came after mine. I was the one that brought it into the house, right? But at the time we were thinking, okay, we have flu type B. Well, now we've got this rash, okay, maybe we have hand, foot, mouth disease. And then my younger baby developed a croup-like cough. So unfortunately I deleted the video because I didn't think it was relevant at the time, but he had that seal barking type cough, that dry, raspy cough, and it seemed to very much pain him, and he seemed to have a little bit of labored breathing, but nothing enough to make me think that we needed to go to the hospital. He seemed to be managing. He was eating and drinking, and the doctor's line here told us it just sounded like we had some virus and to just stick it out at home. I thought he had croup maybe, but then he also broke out in a rash. This is his torso. So this was when my 2-year-old was like about 14 months old. This was the rash that he broke out with, and like I said, it was on his torso. Yeah, so he had the rash, the croup-like cough, the pink eye, he had the fever for a few days, and the lingering head cold for 2 weeks after that. So we all definitely experienced whatever hit us back then in different ways. But if you put all of our symptoms together, that's why I'm saying that this time around, like, we are experiencing it the same exact way in the same sequence. It's just maybe like 25% of the severity that it was that we went through last year. And my older toddler has not shown any symptoms at all. And my younger toddler, you know, like I said, he's just kind of clingy and whiny. That could be for any reason. I do genuinely think he doesn't feel 100%, but there's no real outward signs of anything going on with them. So this video is really long, I'm sorry, but I hope that maybe any of this was useful information for you guys, anyone who is doing some research on what to expect or what to look out for, or just hearing other people's stories. It will be interesting to see either way what our test results come back as. I would be shocked if it wasn't COVID. And I will say, we took an antibody test last year in June. It was 4 months after we went through that illness in February. It was the Abbott antibody test. It had just come out onto the market. And so I went like the first week I could and got that blood test, and my antibody test came back as negative. So we don't know if it was because too much time had passed, that we just I didn't have enough antibodies in my system. We don't know if it was because, since the test was new, it was perhaps a false negative or just wasn't sensitive enough to detect the level of antibodies I had in my system. Or perhaps it wasn't COVID. And it could be that we don't have COVID now. It could just be that we have some nasty virus in the house. We don't know. But what we do know is that my husband had direct exposure in a small closed room with a colleague for many, many hours, with a guy who got sick 2 days later with confirmed COVID. And now we're having all of these symptoms that are in line with COVID and also line up perfectly with our experience with something similar last year. So if our test comes back positive this time, I'm going to say this was in fact our second time going through it. So enough COVID talk. I have documented it, so let it be written. And yeah, this week for the reverse diet fitness situation, taking the week off. I'm gonna let my body recover. Gonna take advantage of some good sleep during the day, naps, because I'm certainly not getting good sleep at night. Once I feel back on my feet, I'm gonna get back on the horse and get back at it. So thanks for watching, and hit me up on Instagram. Here's my handle here if you're interested to see what the result of my test ends up being, because I will be posting it on my channel then. So until then, I will see you all later. Bye.